Welcome back. My next guest is Jonathan Barnwell, the Director of Veterans Affairs at RCC. Welcome, Jonathan.
Good morning, George. Good afternoon. Thanks for this. Thanks for this opportunity.
So, Jonathan, you coordinate the Veterans Affairs, up at RCC with our students, and there's a lot of vets that have had interaction up at RCC. We're excited about having you on and talking about everything that you're doing for our veteran community. But let's talk a little bit about you first, yourself, your background, and what led you to get into this position.
Certainly. I'm a Rockland County native. I was born in Nyack Hospital way back when in 1956, when Eisenhower was president. My parents both settled in Rockland County when they came over from the Bronx, when they came out of the Army. Both my parents were Army veterans, and they settled in Rockland County, and I was born here, been here my whole life. Lived in New York City for about 20 years and moved back in 2010. So I went to graduate from Albertus and also RCC, and then I transferred from RCC to NYU and then to Columbia.
Right.
But I'm a Rockland County native.
What's your degree? What were your degrees in?
At RCC, it was international studies. I was in the international studies program, a year at RCC and then a year in England. And NYU, it was public health and education and international business, I think. And that was a while ago,
Yeah.
And then at Columbia, it was counseling.
And so then your career brought you into the business world as well, right?
I worked at RCC first. When I finished NYU, I was in the admissions office. I had started RCC working as a student worker and then stayed on. I liked working in education. I heard a quote once years ago. It said, "It's impossible to get old in a place that's always young with students."
Right.
And I always liked working at RCC. I always liked being surrounded by students and academia. And then I left in 1980 to start working for what was New York Telephone. So I had a career for about 30 years in telecommunications management, project management, consulting. And then I came back to RCC in 2007. And I was first as an advisor doing public health, which is what I had studied at NYU. And then in 2010, the job that I have now was basically created for me. I'm the conduct officer, so I'm judicial as well as Veterans Affairs. So I've been doing that since November 2010.
Right. And you've done just incredible work up there. I know in my career, we kind of came into contact when I was over at Bridges, formerly Rockland Independent Living Center, with the Dwyer program, and you've just done remarkable work. We've had a lot of veterans, younger veterans in particular, that have gone on to serve in Afghanistan, Iraq, or other duties in the military. They're coming back and they're looking to figure out where they go next. Very many of them are coming to RCC looking for an opportunity and trying to figure out what's next for them in their career. So you've really been able to connect with a number of those folks as well, and or people looking to kind of advance their career, midlife changes, in their career as well, and many vets coming back for that. Tell me a little bit about the Veterans Affairs Office at RCC and kind of what are some of the functions that it's involved with. And then I want to get into some of the specific initiatives that you've undertaken there.
At RCC, what I've tried to make the office since it was new. I'm the first one basically who was Judicial and Veterans Affairs. There were, I think, 3 administrators prior to me trying to coordinate things, and they had pleaded with administration that you need somebody to focus because this was 2010 and the numbers were starting to peak. I've tried to make it, my vision was that we should be a one-stop shop. I'm lucky, based on my background as in project management, I can handle lots of different tasks at the same time. I'm constantly thinking. I have one of those generative minds. And it's funny, my father, growing up in the county, was a parole officer here in the county. Both my parents were military police in the Army. And sometimes I think maybe I was learning more than I think I was, because my approach at RCC is very much as a social worker. I've been told I found jobs, I found summer jobs, permanent jobs, I found housing and so on. So it's type of, I guess, a social work type approach. I didn't think of that initially. It suits me best because I'm constantly thinking of different solutions or different strategies. I've noticed with this type of community with veterans, they have certainly unique challenges, but different types of challenges that I really wasn't expecting and didn't really know initially. I had a background based on my parents and friends who were veterans, but there's still always different types of things that keep me thinking and keep me actively looking.
Right. In fact, it's funny when you say that. One of the other people that I know that you're familiar with and you work closely with is former legislator John Murphy, somebody that has been a bit of a mentor for me. And tremendous career in public service and his work with Homes for Heroes. We'll get to that in a moment, but John's very much in that same ilk of, literally solution-minded, and that's what you really need to be. And there's, folks in the military and our vets, they're folks that are not afraid to take initiative, but oftentimes what I've learned and what we've seen, my experience working particularly with vets that are suffering from PTSD, they're afraid to take initiative when it comes to themselves. They'll take it on other stuff, but maybe not necessarily with themselves. And that's I think one of the unique challenges. But let's talk about some of the other things that you've done there. So you created a very welcoming space as well, right?
I like to think that I have, yes. What I have found, what's interesting to me is working, I've noticed, with veterans, it's very similar, or I should say somewhat similar, to coming out of the military is somewhat similar to coming out of either a prison or a convent, or prison or a convent, because they're somewhat institutionalized.
Right.
The longer they've been there, sometimes even more so. I didn't realize that or understand that in the beginning. It took a while to put my finger on it, because I've noticed a lot of what I do, have done, continue to do, is to advocate on behalf of. I learned as a child, having two military parents, that the nail that sticks out gets hammered, right? Don't want to get hammered. And I've noticed with the student veterans, and we in the civilian world certainly take a lot for granted, but in terms of advocating for ourselves, we're used to doing it. And coming from an institutionalized environment, I've noticed that can be harder and more challenging.
Right.
So, like I've said, a lot of what I do, and I've been training other counselors and other administrators on campus to be more aware of that, is to advocate for the student veterans. They need to do this, they need a little more. It's not that they won't, but they don't want to draw attention to themselves. Mm-hmm. That I've noticed. And even talking with my colleagues around the Hudson Valley, that's a consistent thread we've noticed.
Right. And again, I think part of the other issue is by trying to really meet the vets where they're at, and then also some of the things that you've done, really, I think it's helped to kind of offer the recognition that they need to be able to be successful with some of the tools. So even just like, some of the information and researching for this interview, you created a veterans lounge, so there's a place and a space for the vets to be able to gather and assemble. You brought in Salute. Tell us about Salute.
It's a nationally recognized honor society. I think opened initially 2002 or 2003 by a grant, and there are several different colleges, more and more every year, around the country that open up a chapter. Just like any other honor society, they open a chapter at their school. RCC, we were I believe, the first community college in New York State to inaugurate a chapter of Salute. We opened up in 2013. And it's funny, I just sent out letters today. There's about 7 new candidates that we're hoping to induct this fall. We have a ceremony every year in December. We have luncheon with the president. We induct new members. So we have about 75 members now.
Well, that's great. And so when you think about that, so 7 or 8 a year that are you've been going up for almost 10 years now. So 7, 8, maybe more per year, and that's those are vets. They've done their service, their time, and then they've come back and they're getting their academics going, and they're doing well enough to make it an honor society, which is incredible. And plus, now it's some of the recognition. They're an honor society amongst their peers. So it's unique to be a vet. Not everybody serves in the military, and it's unique to be somebody that that excels at that level. So excelling amongst amongst all students to be able to make an honor society. So that's great. It's kudos to you.
We've noticed. Thank you. We've noticed they don't seek the recognition, as I mentioned. That it's hard for them to advocate for themselves. But when I first told them it's an honor society just for veterans, just for you guys, that comes across much better to them. They like the recognition. They like being with each other. Hence, also the Veterans Lounge. No other groups really have dedicated lounge at RCC. The space is their premium. We had a Veterans Lounge years ago in the 70s when I was there, because I knew some of the Vietnam vets. But for some reason, it was renovated in the 80s or something. So I got several grants in the last few years to maintain the space in terms of stocking it with coffee and Xerox printers and so on, because they don't, this is nationwide, veterans, we've noticed, studies show they don't seem to join clubs as much, they don't integrate as well or as much in college life as the average typical college stage student. But the one thing that seems to be consistent with veterans, student veterans, is a place where they can be with themselves.
Right, but that's just remarkable. in and of itself, I mean, some of the challenges, because one of the other issues is there is a real PTSD there, and there are issues and trauma that our vets have experienced and gone through, particularly in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. I have while I'm not
Your
a
nephew,
vet,
Sal, he came to
Sal.
RCC,
Yeah, my
the Bronze Star winner.
Yeah, my nephew was Afghanistan and highly decorated Bronze Star with Oak Leaf Cluster and V for Valor and Purple Heart and another armload of decorations. But he he had some difficulty adjusting, and RCC was great for him. And I'm proud to say he's completed his education. He's gotten his degree. He's a supervisor with one of the private utility companies.
Excellent.
And he's really been able to kind of go through. But that initial adjustment period was tough, and you and the folks at RCC were extremely helpful to him. I have another nephew who served in Iraq. Same situation. Marine. He was on a Marine recon unit. He lives in Pennsylvania. He's a corrections officer in PA, but he had some rough times, adjusting and coming back, because it's exactly what you said. It's that institutional life, and then you're put in very unreal situations. People aren't shooting at you over here, but you're dodging roadside bombs and having people trying to take your life, and you're shooting back. And unfortunately, in some situations, like my nephews, they took lives as well, as in the course of their duty. But as they try to inculcate themselves and are reintroduced into society, there's going to be a wariness. There's going to be because they've just gone through 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever it might have been, of people literally trying to kill you. And so you're not going to be as welcoming and as open, and it's going to take some time for that to really kind of go through. But we're just about out of time. But before we finish, I got to talk about Homes for Heroes. You and I both work closely, and I have historically for very many years with John Murphy, the former legislator from Orangetown, who's made his life 60 years working with people with disabilities and also with veterans. He's a Marine, served in the Marines in the late 50s. He's founded Homes for Heroes. Tell us just a little bit about Homes for Heroes and some of your involvement, because I know there's also some RCC vets that are living in Homes for Heroes. Tell us a little bit about Homes for Heroes.
Rockland Homes for Heroes in Japan. It's a wonderful opportunity. And, God bless John Murphy for spearheading this, and it's been his passion project for I don't know how many years. Work is underway, I believe. I think they're breaking ground this fall on Phase 2, which would add, I think, about 14 to 16 other apartments. Right now there are 8 units, of which we have 4 RCC vets. 2 of them are still current RCC students enrolled there, living there. There's wonderful apartments. They're complete. They were formerly homeless in varying degrees. One was sleeping on a couch, one was homeless in the streets, one was getting divorced and had no place to live. So they're varying degrees. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad it came at the right time, and I'm happy to be involved in it. I'm on the President's Council for Homes for Heroes. So, like I've said, it's been a godsend, because I don't know what we would have done and what solutions there would have been for these 4 RCC vets who are housed there, what we would have been able to do given the housing market, especially in Rockland County. Right. So we're excited. I already have a list of RCC veterans that will be applying next year when the applications hopefully come out for Phase 2.
That's great. That's great. So, and I want to thank you, Jonathan, for that effort, and not just that effort, but your effort really, these last number of years, leading as the coordinator for Judicial and Veterans Affairs up at RCC. It's just, you do remarkable work, and a lot of people don't know about it, but it's so key. RCC is a big place. It's one of the bigger community colleges in the state. They've got tremendous resources, tremendous assets, and it's great to see that there's a focus. And we like to pride ourselves here in Clarkstown that we put a real focus and an emphasis on our vets, like this program. Since I've been doing this program, and I think we're well over 60 shows, we've always have a vet. We frequently have people that have been working in the veterans community, and it's important. And plus, our town, since I became supervisor, we've have the memorial banners to recognize our vets. That we started here in Clarkstown. I'm proud to say every town does it now in Rockland County. So that's something that we've been able to do, as well as having the veterans breakfast and ceremony for Veterans Day, which was also a new thing. So we'll always continue to do it here, and I know as long as you're at RCC, RCC will always continue to do the right thing by our vets.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
So thanks for being a great guest, and we wish you well. If people want to get in contact with you, how do they do that?
Email, they can go on the school's website and download from there. My contact information is right on the website, or they can just send me an email directly or call directly. Should I give you my phone number?
Yeah, email and phone number would be great.
Email J Barnwell with only one L, jbarnwell at sunyrockland.edu, or phone 845-574-4105. And it goes right to me. And veterans, I jump on it right away. It's the highlight of my day, speaking and dealing with veterans.
Great. Jonathan, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being such a great guest.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.